I'm Max. I have actually been in the crypto space for about 6 years now. Seems like quite a long time. But really the main topic that I want to get across to all of you guys is what the blockchain actually is. What is the whole purpose of the blockchain? What is a cryptographic asset? And how is it applied in today's terms in the real world? So first and foremost, okay, so does anybody actually know, raise your hand if you know what Bitcoin is or Ethereum or anything like that. Okay, cool. Anybody own any? Does anybody own some? Yeah, there we go, we got one. Has anybody bought any altcoins in the past month? Thank you, sweet. So really, the basis of what a cryptographic asset is and what a blockchain is in a functioning aspect is a cryptographic asset like Bitcoin or Ethereum. It's really based on cryptography that secures a digital asset inside of said medium of exchange. So you can visualize a Bitcoin or an Ethereum as the medium of exchange that is running on the actual blockchain, on a blockchain. So what on earth is a blockchain? Very simply, a blockchain is just a digital ledger. Does anybody know what a ledger is? Yes? Okay, great. So imagine if it's just digitized, and what the blockchain does while using and transferring data between cryptographic assets is it records all of the actual transactions that people have used. So for example, if I am sending somebody one token, a blockchain will record that transaction. So really the benefit of a blockchain is it is decentralized, so everybody has access to it, and it is all distributed through whoever wants to participate in running the blockchain itself. So mainly, if you can visualize a cryptographic token as a vehicle that is running on an infrastructure called the blockchain, and that blockchain is recording all of the movements of where that cryptographic asset goes, that is kind of, in a very simplistic sense, of how a cryptographic asset and a blockchain come together and merge. How can you actually be a part of this? How can you actually do some contributing to Bitcoin or Ethereum or any other type of blockchain itself? First, you can actually own a crypto asset. Go on to something called Coinbase, an exchange, and feel free to purchase with your own fiat currency, whether that's American dollar or euro, and you will receive some type of crypto asset, whatever you choose, whether that's Bitcoin or Ethereum. They have Litecoin, so on and so forth. You can also run a node. So what on earth is a node? A node is what is actually supporting the network itself. And how they do that is it downloads, it's a set of programs, and it downloads what the actual blockchain has recorded of all the list of transactions. And when you do this, it goes back and sees, okay, I sent said payment to someone else, another address, and therefore it's recorded in the actual blockchain itself. So what the node does, because this is all decentralized and therefore directly peer-to-peer between someone, you don't know who it is behind the screen. So it's a trustless system. So how do we ensure trust? The node itself runs a certain program that allows you to either confirm or deny an actual transaction. And by doing so, this ensures consensus on the whole network itself, so it continues to run, and really people can continue to run and grow the actual network. So how do you actually grow the network? Not all blockchains have this, but blockchains like Bitcoin and Ethereum, several others, you can choose to mine. So what mining is in a very simplistic sense is mining opens up a new slot on the ledger that allows you to record more transactions. And thus it expands out the network for more people to use and more records to be recorded and maintained. How you actually do that is you dedicate some computing power and you solve, and I'll be very, very simple with this. You essentially solve a complicated math problem that you or I can't figure out on pen and paper. It takes a lot of time and a lot of computing power to actually solve the problem. Once that problem is solved and it's unlocked, then now that slot, or what we call a block, is now opened, and transactions can be listed inside of that block, and thus the network expands. The first person to open up and solve that problem gets a reward, and it's traditionally in whatever cryptographic asset that you're running on that particular blockchain. So if you are mining Bitcoin and you're dedicating all this computing power, and you're the first one to open up block number 1000, you are rewarded for your contribution of computing power and time that you spent on solving that section of the blockchain. And typically you're rewarded, I think at the moment it's 12.5 Bitcoin, I believe. So really that's the basis of what the actual blockchain is, broken down between a digital asset and what the actual blockchain is running in the infrastructure. It's very complicated in the nitty-gritty, but I'll just take a pause for a second. Does anybody have any questions about the actual blockchain or cryptographic asset? Go ahead. What's your name?
Tom.
Tom. Thank you, Tom. Go ahead.
So is all cryptographic currency backed by another currency or gold or anything, or is it just out of thin air?
So Tom just asked, is all cryptographic assets backed by something, whether that's gold, or I'm assuming you're referring to a physical asset like the dollar, the euro, or maybe an actual commodity like oil or corn. So some blockchains and some cryptographic assets are actually backed by some type of hard asset. A few coins have actually come out that help transact and keep a record of vegetables and fruits. For example, I know it sounds funny, but there's actually a banana coin, and that actually runs and keeps track of bananas. So it would be essentially backed and recording by how much the agricultural produce is being supplied to the market demand in bananas. But a majority of the actual currencies and tokens themselves, no, they're really not backed by anything. They're backed by the security of what makes the blockchain safe and immutable, meaning you can't go back and erase past transactions. Any more questions?
So what determines how long a transaction takes? Like if you are sending something to someone, is it purely a get in line sort of thing, where it's like there are 100 people in line going to send something to someone else?
Yeah. So what was your name again? Sam. Thank you, Sam. So Sam asked a great question. What actually determines the time to confirm a transaction, right? So as the transaction is being confirmed, it is the time between running each node, and there's several nodes to transact a actual consensus. So that's where the time comes into play. How long does it take for the nodes to run and to actually meet a consensus on confirming or denying a transaction? And they do that by going through the ledger in the past and seeing if this is a real transaction or not. Any more questions before I go on? Go ahead. What was your name, by the way? I'm sorry.
My name's
Dia, thank you.
So, kind of back to Tom's question, essentially, for example, you bought Bitcoin. What do you buy them with? Bitcoins? So you buy Bitcoins with Bitcoins, so like, is there like some kind of like little Federal Reserve Bank of Bitcoins somewhere that just kind of like, you know, print them and then make them and then they come out on interest? Like,
Yeah. So that's a great question that Deanna asked. So the question was, how do these actual coins come about? Do you buy Bitcoin for Bitcoin, or do you actually just purchase either with Bitcoin or with Ethereum or something? So there's two ways that you can come about. But before I go on, it is not a centralized authority that, quote unquote, prints these Bitcoin. There's two ways for them to come about. You can purchase them through an exchange, such as a Coinbase, and that's just a mobile app on your phone. It's a web-based platform as well, and you can go in and purchase $100 worth of Bitcoin or $100 worth of Ethereum, and then you now have whatever the market price was at that time. If you don't want to actually use your money and purchase them, you can actually mine Bitcoin or Ethereum. And how you mine, again, you just figure out whatever that problem is, and the first one to solve that problem, you are rewarded. So then that reward will be deposited into your mobile wallet, and then you can do whatever you so choose with that. You can hold it, sell it, continue to accumulate more. Does that help does that help a little bit? Okay, great. One more question and we'll continue. Go on. What was your name again? Steve, great.
So if all nodes are solving the same problem with add blocks to the chain, then how is it that the difficulty increases or requires more time to solve the same problem?
So Steve asked, and correct me if I'm wrong, Steve asked how do the nodes or the miners, but in this case what you're talking about, I would assume it would be more on the miner side. How does the process continue even though the difficulty rate continues to expand? Is that
Why does the difficulty rate expand?
Why? Okay, perfect. Okay, so why does the difficulty rate expand as you open up a new slot to record transactions? So, a phenomenal question. It's really to ensure the security of the network as you continue to grow and expand. So, because this is decentralized and everything has a distributed ledger, so everybody in this room would have, if they so choose, would have a form of their own distributed ledger. If you so chose to mine, Steve would solve the first slot in the block, and you would be rewarded X number of Bitcoin. The next slot is a little bit more difficult because it ensures the network security. Because it's all distributed, we cannot have somebody or some entity take a majority control over the network itself. So it helps ensure that situation to happen. So how you would take over, this is in a more hypothetical sense for how difficult it would be. You'd have to dedicate a lot of computing power and a lot of storage to do so. But how you would take over a network would essentially copy the exact blockchain of what you're trying to take a majority control over and go back and reapply all of that computing power and storage that has built up over the lifetime of a said blockchain network. This is now going on 8 or 9 years old, so that's a lot. That is a tremendous amount of petabytes worth of storage to go back and try to rearrange and recorrect so you could diverge those past rewards of Bitcoin or Ethereum into your own wallet. Same thing for the computing power. It would take hundreds of thousands of megawatts worth of power to go back and copy and repaste all of those transactions for you to have a majority control. So that's why. It ensures the security of the network.
So really the problem is changing as you go. The algorithm is becoming more difficult.
Yes, yes. So as you continue, so for this example, as you continue to mine and open up new slots in the blockchain, you're opening up more difficult problems. So you're now, on block 1001, you now have to dedicate a little bit more computing power in the same amount of time frame to solve that block. The next one, so on and so forth, as it continues to grow and expand.
Can I ask one little side question?
Go right ahead. We're on a roll, so go.
So what about the coins where they decrease the difficulty to incentivize miners?
To incentivize miners? So Steve just asked, what is what's the process of incentivizing miners to reduce the difficulty, correct?
Yeah.
So personally, from my opinion, and please, anybody correct me if I'm wrong here, or if you can answer a little bit better. Really, that mainly incentivizes and puts more control and power over the actual people that are using the blockchain itself for transactions back and forth, or actually running the nodes and putting more control and power in them. Because if you're taking up 20% of a specific blockchain's mining computational power, you have a pretty good fix on the market. And we can see people collaborating now in certain aspects where if the miner is shut down, it puts more strain on the blockchain to continue to open up new blocks and add more transactions. Does that help out a little bit? Or?
Yeah, I think so. I guess I just don't understand that mechanism because I've read that when a coin needs to incentivize miners, they will actually decrease the difficulty. Maybe I've misinterpreted what I read, but it sounded like they could decrease the difficulty to incentivize more miners to mine that coin. So if your coin was struggling, then you could decrease that difficulty. And so the problem I see in that is that you're changing, the stability and the security.
Yeah, yeah.
But I also get that you need to encourage people to jump on board with your coin. So
we'll talk after and go into more detail on that. All right. But that was a great question on two different aspects. So really the next part is how can you actually contribute to this? Well, first of all, you can keep coming to groups like this, okay? Actually talk and be a part of people that are actually doing things and in the space. You can go and purchase some type of crypto asset, whether that's Bitcoin or Ethereum, and again, you do that through a exchange. The simplest way to do that would be through a Coinbase, and again, you would just very simply pay $1 or $100 or $2, whatever you so choose, in return for some crypto asset. You can choose to run a node. And running a node means you would dedicate some type of computing power and some storage in order to help support the blockchain of your so choosing. You could mine. There's two ways to mine. You can actually mine on a physical piece of hardware. I have a piece somewhere around here if you're interested to see what it looks like. Or you can do a virtual mining or a cloud mining. And what that is joining a group of people who are actually mining on a large scale, but you're only purchasing a small percentage of that mining capability. So as you would pay $100 towards a pool to mine, you would be in return earning X number of crypto assets towards your initial funding of the mining pool. What I'm most interested on is if you really want to contribute, either participate in, or if you, for Sam's area of expertise, if you can actually write some decentralized applications and add to the blockchain. So, for example, has anybody heard of CryptoKitties? crypto kitties, like kittens. So it is a decentralized app. The phrase is actually DApp, D-A-P-P. And what CryptoKitties is an Ethereum-based game, again, on a decentralized network, that you can choose to create. I have not played it, but you can choose to create, breed, or purchase clothes or anything related to some digital asset, such as a digital kitten. I kid you not. I think the first CryptoKitty was sold for $119,000. Not maybe 6 or 8 months ago. So it is amazing of what you can actually do and what people are willing to pay for that. One other thing before I wrap up, I'm trying to keep it short and sweet so we can have more Q&A. If you are involved in this at all, whether you own some or you actively trade or have invested in some, the SEC and the IRS have determined this cryptographic asset basically as a security. So it's treated in a similar fashion as a stock or a bond or a hard asset like real estate or gold. So really, the only thing I want you to take away on that is you will not have to pay any taxes if you so choose to enter the crypto ecosystem by buying one or several Ethereum or Bitcoin or something of like once, and if you choose to send it to another wallet. And a wallet is simply just a secured device to help store your cryptographic assets. So just be aware that it is deemed a security, and if you are selling you could potentially pay some capital gains on that. But if there's any more questions, I've wrapped up. This is it. So again, thank you guys for hearing me rant. Tried to keep it short and sweet. Okay, well, thank you guys very much. Thank you.